The dictionary defines communication as the imparting or interchange of thoughts, opinions, or information by speech, writing, or signs. So, right, think about this for a minute. Whether you're talking to a student, whether you're talking to, let's say you're in sales and you're talking to a customer, right? How you communicate really can make a difference as to whether or not they're receiving the information you're trying to give them and you're receiving the information they're trying to give you, right? And how effective you can be in that communication is going to make a big difference in your level of stress, your relationships with others, the level of satisfaction with your life, your productivity, your ability to meet your goals and achieve your dreams, and your ability to solve problems. If you think about communication, we really, as a group of people, right, just in general, there's three major ways that we look at this. We either communicate via the spoken word, right, and that can be broken down to two parts. Verbally, the words you're actually saying, and paraverbal, which is effectively how you're saying it, your tone, your speech. When you were a kid and you said something to your parents because you were upset and they said, "I don't like your tone." Well, what does that mean? It may not necessarily be the words that you're saying, but rather how you're saying it, how you're coming across. Also nonverbal. You may have noticed in this video so far, as I'm talking to you guys, I've been using things like my hands. I've been looking at you, but I'm not sitting here crossing my arms and tapping on my laptop or maybe looking at my phone, doing things like that. I'm actually addressing you directly. And I mean, you could probably tell the difference as to whether I'm talking to you right now like this, or if I'm just kind of sitting, okay, guys, so God, I'm glad you guys made it. Thanks for coming. Yeah, guys, I got to cut this short. I got somewhere I have to be. How would you feel if you were going in to talk to somebody, right? Whether you're a student trying to get into training like you might be here, whether you're trying to land that job, whether you're trying to ask that person out on a first date, right? Think about that. How do you think that they will feel if you're talking to them like, okay, all right, fine. It's like, okay, well, I'm not interested. Also, in addition to the nonverbal communication, another way that people communicate also is written. So that means, email, letter, right? The old snail mail, got that option too. So there's a lot of different ways that you can work with. And of course, who are you talking to? Are you talking to an individual person? Are you communicating with the masses? And if you are communicating with the masses, how are you doing it? Right? Are you doing it over email? Are you doing social media? Right? The message, right, is really important because you're thinking about what you want that person to understand. Now, the first one that he mentioned was face to face, right? That's what we're doing right now. Granted, we're not online. This is virtual. And ideally, if we could talk person to person, face to face, that would be number one. But you know what the next best way to do this is? Just like you're seeing here, right? Think about it. I'm talking to you now. You're looking at me. I'm looking straight into the camera at you. How would you feel if all of a sudden I did this? And then all of a sudden I'm still talking, I'm still here, but can you see my demeanor? Can you see if I have my arms crossed, which by the way I do? Can you tell if I'm looking at the camera? Can you tell if I'm tapping my leg? Can you tell if I seem interested or not? Can you tell if I'm smiling or not? I used to have a job in sales when I was right after I got out of the Marine Corps, and I followed kind of like the Zig Ziglar rules of sales. And one of the things he kind of mentioned in there was smile. Even if they can't see you, your tone sounds different when you're smiling as opposed to when you're not. Like right now, I've got a big grin on my face, and just to kind of prove to you I'm not lying, I actually am talking to you just like this. So a lot of the visual cues really do matter. And not just that, are you noticing that the entire time I've been talking, I'm not really facing you? I kind of am, but have you noticed I've been kind of sitting here twisting in my chair and moving around a bit? That's because when you're talking, use your whole body, face the person. Face the person you're talking to, because then they'll know you are their focus, you are their attention. And if you've got more than one person in a group, how many times have you ever done that? You've been in a group of people and you're talking to them and you do this. You turn to look at that person, you turn to look at that person, you turn to look at that person, right? That happens. Why? You want that person to know, hey, you have my attention. I'm listening to what you're saying, which may make them feel more comfortable to open up to you. The other aspects or the other ways to communicate as well, writing. Right? Think about this. You send an email about something important. You send out the letter to somebody else. Well, one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're sending out written communication is they don't make it clear as to what they want. Right? How many times have you opened up an email and you've read through the email and you've gone blah, 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 and what they're really asking for is way down at the bottom, like the last thing. In my experience, the higher up somebody goes up the ladder, right? In a company, right, you get promoted, you have more responsibility. The higher up you go, the less time you have to go through and search through day-to-day minutia. So when you're writing something, when you're communicating with a student, a customer, your employer, whoever it happens to be, whatever you want, think about it. If this person only had time to read just a couple of sentences because they're in a hurry, what's the most important thing they should know? What's the main thing you should take away? So try to put that in the subject or maybe the first line of the body of the email, just to make sure that, hey, even if they don't get to everything else, they know the number one reason why you sent them this message. Right? It's kind of like the differences between sending an email to a specific person and then CCing somebody else. The to person is the main recipient of your message. The CC is like, hey, I want you to know about this, but you're not the main person I'm targeting this to. That's what that's for. So reread the email, and that's okay. You should reread your emails before you send them off. Make sure that you're conveying the right message. Make sure you're conveying the right tone in your message to get what you want to have, which is the appropriate response. Which brings me to my final thing, which is the ABCs of emails. And what does this mean? Well, first off, attach before composing. So what does that mean? Simply, when you're sending up an email, have you ever had this scenario before where you sent an email and you forgot to attach something? Or you received an email and the person was sending something to you and they said, oh, I forgot to send the attachment, hang on a second, or I didn't get anything. So if you're going to send files, attach them first. Second, write out your message. Okay, write out whatever you want to say in the body of your message. In the subject line, make it meaningful. Make sure if it's urgent, say urgent. If this is something that you want to get somebody's attention on, put attention. Put something in that subject line so the person gets an idea of how important this is. And then finally, did you notice I haven't said anything yet about addressing the message? That should always be the last thing that you do. Because think about it. How many times has somebody sent a message? I've been upset about something, they type something in, they send it, and then it's gone. Unfortunately, once an email's gone, it's really difficult to bring it back. So you could save yourself a whole lot of heartache. You could save yourself from having the, oops, I didn't mean to see that. Or unfortunately, I've actually seen this happen twice, where somebody has sent an email in the heat of the moment, and because of that, they got fired. They lost their jobs. So I have seen that happen. So how can you prevent yourself from maybe being a casualty of an upset email or sending something incomplete? Don't put the addressee into that message until you have read through it. It says exactly what you want, that you're sure. Then go click on to type in the address and you can send it. And just check for those things. Check for your attachments, make sure the email has the message you want to convey, the subject line is appropriate. And once everything looks good, send it. I know it's kind of backwards. A lot of people, when they go out to their Gmail, their Yahoo, their Outlook, what's at the very top? To, that's the first thing. It should actually be down toward the bottom, right, to help you. They don't put it in the order that you really should do this. So as a best practice, which is something I talk about in my classes, I never put the addressee until the very, very, very last thing. You will save yourself a lot of headache. It's kind of like when you post on social media, like with my kids, I tell them, would you ever say that in front of your grandmother? Think about that for a second. All right, guys, thank you.